Hi guys, this is Hero, and today I'm going to be going over the topic of waning and waxing moon when it comes to a spiritual perspective connected to the full moon and new moon concepts. And if you're able to understand this, at the end of the video, I'm going to be discussing what I call personally a waning and waxing sun. Okay, so I'll get straight into the video. So just in case you don't know, a waxing moon is basically after a new moon, the moon is gaining more and more brightness until it gets to a full moon. And a waning moon is after a full moon, the moon is losing brightness until it gets to the new moon. Now, for those of you who are into astrology and spirituality and stuff like that, you understand that a new moon and a full moon is pretty important spiritual days. Okay, the full moon is when the moon is at its brightness, its period, and the new moon is when the moon is not visible in the night sky at all. Okay, now here I have 4 circles here, and you might be wondering what they represent. So P1 is phase 1 all the way going to P2, phase 2, phase 3, and phase 4. So phase 1 represents a waxing full moon. Phase 2 represents a waning full moon. Phase 3 represents a waning new moon. And phase 4 represents a waxing new moon. Okay? So as you may know, this is where Eastern and Western mindsets differentiate a little bit. Okay? So if you look at any classical Indian text, most of them are going to say after a new moon, when the moon is waxing, it quote unquote like gains strength, you can say. And when the moon is waning, it loses strength. Even if it just finished the full moon phase. Okay, it just finished, it's still pretty bright, but when it's waning, it's losing a little bit of strength. Okay, now in the Western world, for some people, or even someone with the Western mindset, they might have a little bit of questions like, dude, it's only like, a day or even a few hours after the new moon. How could it possibly have gained, all its strength? And same thing with the full moon. Dude, it was just a full moon last night. How could it possibly, already be losing its strength all the way to new moon? And I'm going to share a perspective with you on why this is kind of the case. So first thing we have to understand is that moon represents the mind. Sun could represent the identity. Okay, your identity, your ego in this world. Moon represents your mental, emotional state and stuff. Now imagine this. Imagine a full moon I'm going to relate it to something external, and then I'm going to connect it back to the internal mindset of the moon, okay? Because the external is going to allow you, we all can resonate with external circumstances, okay? So by touching on an external topic first, then I will touch on the internal, how it connects to the internal moon topic. So imagine a new moon is you have, there's no brightness, right? So you have absolutely no money in life. You're dead broke, super unsuccessful, blah, blah, blah. Full moon, exact opposite. Things could not be going better, especially financially. Things are just going great in your life, all this stuff. Now, a full moon, a waxing full moon. Okay, so this is the most auspicious period, one of the more auspicious periods as far as a full moon cycle goes in Vedic astrology. Okay, so this means basically that imagine full moon is your peak. The waxing is you're growing closer and closer to your peak. Okay, imagine you already have a very successful business and you just can't stop signing, new clients and, expanding your business even further and further. Okay? Obviously, this is an amazing situation to be in. Now, why do they say when the moon is waning, even if it's just after the full moon, it starts gaining its negative energy very, very quickly? Well, imagine you have a super successful business, okay? And all of a sudden, you go through a little bit of a down stretch and you start losing a few clients or something like that. Business is not booming as much as it used to. Even if if it's just like the first rough day, you can say, okay? You have to remember, moon represents the mind. I don't know about you guys, but this is why they say attachment is the root to all suffering. Okay, or some quote like this. It's because you were attached to all this. So when you're forced to start detaching, it's going to cause a lot of suffering, no matter how much you do or don't have. Okay, so even if now I will actually, before jumping to phase 3, I'm going to actually jump to phase 4 because it directly connects to this concept. If you have absolutely nothing, imagine new moon is absolutely nothing. When you start gaining stuff, even let's just say you work a minimum wage job, and you got a slight pay raise, okay, or a slight bonus, something like that. Yeah, it might not be as much as you have here, but guess what? You most likely are so grateful in this situation for what you've gained. Your moon, your mind, it's feeling more emotionally happy than if you were in this state. Okay, some millionaire who, let's just say they went from making $1 million a year to $900,000 a year, most likely they're not going to be the most extremely grateful on their current status of making $900,000 a year. They're going to wonder, dude, where did that $100,000 a year go? Okay. With these two phases, okay, this person, let's just say you're making $10 an hour and you went from making $15 or $20 an hour. As you may know, $15 or $20 an hour, it is not going to make you anywhere close to $1 million. But this person most likely is going to be a lot more happier than someone in this, okay? And I've personally experienced something like this, and I've seen, I'm not at the $1 million a year level, but I've seen this kind of situation, and all this kind of resonates with me, okay? Same thing with this person who has nothing and gains a little bit. It's a similar effect for this person, okay? This person went from, let's just say, $800,000 or $900,000 a year to $1 million a year. They're gonna feel a lot more happier, okay? But the energies are similar here in phase 2 and phase 3, where phase 2, okay, this person went from $1 million to $900,000 versus this person went from $20 an hour or $15 an hour to $10 an hour. The moon, the mind, the mentally, you're getting affected either way. Okay, so this is why they say this. Yeah, in the Western world tends to value the external more than the internal. Okay, so that's why, and it also it looks at astrology more from a different standpoint. You can watch my video on Eastern versus Western astrology, or I think I said tropical versus sidereal zodiac, something like that. But it'll kind of explain the overall differences, but that's where this mindset comes in. So for me personally, when on a new moon, for example, there was a new moon that just occurred, right? This is kind of why I made this topic. When a new moon occurs, the everything after, when the moon passes the sun, I start to try to resonate with the waxing energies of that moon. Okay, yeah, sure. The moon, it doesn't have a lot of brightness, but it's slowly gaining brightness. Okay, this is a great time to be, appreciative of, all the little things you have in life. Oh, this is a great chance to be more appreciative of what you have in life. Okay, they just do it in different ways. Okay, my video on sun and moon journey is still pending, but you can kind of look at moon as like a feminine energy also in a way. Obviously, just like the moon circulates Earth every month, a woman has a cycle about once a month. Okay, every single portion of that. I didn't want to say the word period just to confuse everyone, but every single portion of a woman's 1 month cycle, because obviously women does not have more than one period in a cycle, but every single portion of a woman's cycle has a certain significance to it. Same thing with here, and that's what I try to show you now. Now, what do I mean by a waning and waxing sun? Okay, this is something that completely, I have not seen it out there. This is something that I've just noticed, especially because sun is getting closer and closer to Jupiter right now. Okay, so as you notice, this is all, the moon is not actually rotating around the sun, right? We're all looking at it from an astrological standpoint. So, throughout 1 month, throughout 1 month, yeah, you could say the sun moves from sign to sign, and after 12 months, it circulates, in 1 year, 12 months, it circulates around the whole zodiac cycle. Well, similarly, timing wise, just how the moon and the sun have that relationship, every month it finishes its cycle, and every month it moves from sign to sign. Sun and Jupiter have the same timing relationship. Obviously, the relationship is a little bit different from moon to sun versus sun to Jupiter, but timing wise, it's about the same. So pretend like wherever I had moon, put sun, and pretend this is not the sun, and pretend this is Jupiter. Okay, so just like throughout 1 month, a moon completes its cycle. Throughout 1 year, the sun completes its cycle, and then eventually ends up right at Jupiter. And then, every year, Jupiter will change its signs. Okay. Now, obviously, the sun does not have, is not losing brightness and gaining brightness the same way that the moon is. And obviously, the sun has more to do with the external versus the internal, like moon does. So the internal, obviously, in our Indian system, it plays a huge significance more than the sun, right? Our dasha systems, everything is kind of connected to the sun. But what I would encourage you to look at is see the sun as it rotates around the zodiac in connection to Jupiter, how it changes. And you'll notice, so new moon is when the emotional self and the identity or ego, you can say, are connected, and the full moon is when they aspect each other, right? So it's similar. If you were to look at this from a sun perspective, the sun represents identity or ego. That's down here, and then at the next level, Jupiter, Guru, represents your higher consciousness, wisdom, stuff like that. So you could say, when the sun is here, basically when the sun is linked up right now, the sun, I believe it's in phase 3. Okay, it's approaching Jupiter right now. This is exactly why I wanted to include it in this video. It's for those of you who are able to somewhat comprehend. I don't even know if I'm right when connected to this. This is just something I share, and I just wanted to share with you guys because this is what my intuition was telling me to share. So right now you could say the sun, in essence, it's getting closer and closer to being conjunct with Jupiter, you could say. Okay, so the identity is getting more and more and more closer to the consciousness. So the identity, ego, sun, is getting more and more and more forced to break down. Okay, and you could say it here. The identity is also being more and more and more forced to. It's leaving the consciousness, and it's kind of picking up steam to where they fully aspect each other. And then the same thing will happen after about, when they're 7 houses apart, after the sun passes Jupiter's degrees. You'll notice this in about, 6 to 7 months from now. The sun will start, slowly getting back to Jupiter and having its effect shown this way. And then also this, just like this, the sun, Jupiter influences the sun also influences Jupiter, okay? So you'll notice this going on. Just like when, that's probably the main difference here. When there's a new moon versus, like a real new moon versus sun, the moon slowly loses brightness and strength. But as we know, the sun does not lose brightness and strength when it approaches, Jupiter. Like I said, pretend this is Jupiter. So the sun, as it rotates, throughout the whole year, it finishes its cycle and it connects back to Jupiter, it does not lose its brightness. Okay, so that's a slight little twist here. And just like, there's certain transits, like, a moon cycle, there's sade, sati, obviously, okay, when your Saturn gets back to your natal moon. There's certain other transits like this that I would encourage that are not as glorified in the current astrological community, but I would encourage you to take a look at and see if your awareness can connect with them. And there's so many other transits like this. Okay, for example, I have another one where notice whenever Mars transits your first house. Okay, I'll touch on that in another video. But there's so many other important transits besides the ones that are glorified to us or shown to us the most, like sade, sati, or new moon and full moon. Okay. Just like, for example, sun's cycle around Jupiter is one, okay? Or like I just said, Mars, when it trains, it's your first house. It's a natural first sign lord, okay? It's a very powerful spot. So these are not some things that are commonly talked about. Use your intuition to judge when certain transits are going to apply to you more. I'm trying to think. Oh, here's the other thing. So don't feel overwhelmed by all these different transits and stuff. Yeah, there's a lot going on in astrology and stuff. Just like this that you might have known about with either the moon or the sun circulating around Jupiter, or the Mars transiting first house, like I just mentioned. But this is the reason why we need to constantly strive to increase our our awareness and intuition. So that, and remove all distractions from our life, so that we're able to use our own intuition to identify all this stuff, and use our own awareness to connect and expand on this kind of stuff. Okay. Any distractions you do, like watching excessive TV, or hanging around with negative people, it's going to lower your vibration and consciousness and all this, and you won't be able to resonate, or definitely not connect with or identify on your own, especially any certain other stuff like this that's not commonly talked about. Or basically anything in astrology in general, to an extent. Okay, so I hope this all made sense. If the sun part rotating around Jupiter didn't make sense, hopefully at least the moon part did. So as usual, if you have any questions or comments, always feel free to let me know. And until next time, talk to you guys later. Thank you for watching.